This is American Ground Radio. I'm Stephen Parr with Louis R. Avallone.
No, Joe Biden is a devout Catholic.
Yeah?
I mean, he told the American people that's exactly who he is.
He goes to church all the time, goes to Mass.
But I ask this question all the time. How can you be so hypocritical? Why do you lie to the American people? Why do you say something publicly that publicly you don't even demonstrate that you believe? I mean, it's not even in your DNA.
Here's where I think the problem is. I think Joe Biden is letting his political beliefs influence his religious beliefs. And it should be the other way around. Your faith in God should influence how you view things politically. I think Joe Biden's just doing it backwards.
I don't think he has any idea that there's a difference. I mean, this man has been about power.
Well, he certainly knows the Catholic Church doesn't think that abortion is a good thing.
But you know what's more important to him?
Political power.
It's power.
Right, that's what I'm saying. His political views is influencing how he looks at his faith. And that's backwards. You shouldn't be putting your politics in front of Jesus. You shouldn't.
So today, in the White House press room, Jen Psaki, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, was asked the question. Well, you take a listen.
Last question. Sure. Does the president believe that a 15-week-old unborn baby is a human being?
Are you asking me if the president supports a woman's right to choose? He does.
Jen, let me clear that up for you. No, that's not what she was asking. Come on.
No, this admission that Biden does not see a 15-week-old unborn baby as a human is just... It's just ridiculously hypocritical.
That wasn't an admission.
It's a lie.
They didn't actually admit that. They circumvented the question.
No, come on, Stephen. She said that he supports a woman's right to choose. What do you think that means?
I know what I think it means, but I also know what she thinks she accomplished. She thinks she got around the question
it's not fooling
because
anybody.
She said, you've asked one thing. I'm going to answer something you didn't actually ask. And by the way, the left does this all the time. They get offended by things you don't actually say. They get mad about things that don't actually exist. As Ronald Reagan said, it's not that they're ignorant, it's just so much of what they know just isn't so. And in this case, Jen Psaki answered a question that no one asked.
Well, guess what? This isn't fooling anyone because the Catholic bishops are taking steps to prevent Biden from receiving Holy Communion. And here's the thing. A lot of folks may say, oh, what is the big deal? What is the big deal? Why go to these steps to prevent someone? We're all sinners. We're all sinners before God.
Yes.
Why are you holier than thou that you're not going to allow Joe Biden as a church to receive Holy Communion? And the reason is that if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
The reason is because Joe Biden, when he supports abortion, Joe Biden isn't just sinning. He's actually moved into the realm of iniquity. Iniquity is more than sin. Iniquity is when your sin, you are so comfortable in your sin that you no longer think it's a sin. Iniquity is when sin becomes a habit that you're okay with. It's worse than sin because when you sin, you really are convicted by it. You're like, oh man, I should not have done that. That's not right. I need to repent about that. Iniquity is where you're like, yeah, that's fine. That's okay. Joe Biden and his abortion stance is beyond sin. He's now into the realm of iniquity where he isn't bothered by his sin, and that's a bigger problem.
So the U.S. Catholic bishops, though, have approved the drafting of a document that will prevent Joe Biden and other pro-abortion politicians, in other words, folks like Nancy Pelosi,
who is also dwelling in the realm of iniquity,
from receiving the sacrament of Holy Communion. And Nancy Pelosi was asked the same question. She's a so-called devout Catholic. She was asked the same question, is if an unborn baby at 15 weeks is a human being. And she says, let me just say, and this is where you say, well, they think that they're getting around the question. Nancy Pelosi answered that question by saying, let me just say that I'm a big supporter of Roe v. Wade. I'm the mother of 5 children.
Nobody asked that. How many kids do you have? That would be the answer to that. She'd go on Jeopardy because you're supposed to answer in the form of the question there. She's answering things that no one asked. No one asked how many kids you have. The question was, do you think a human fetus at 15 weeks old is a human being? It's got human DNA, it's got a heartbeat, and it's got brain waves. Is that a human being?
Well, Meghan McCain, of course, one of the hosts on ABC's The View. She says that Biden is doing grave spiritual harm to himself and harm to this country by supporting abortion.
She's right on that. And again, that's the problem with iniquity, because when you no longer think that your sin is bad, you're doing tremendous damage to your own spirit.
See, this is all part of Marxism. We talk on this show about the march of Marxism on the United States of America and destroying religion, the freedom to worship. That's what Marxism, that's one of the tenets of Marxism. And guess what? There's a poll out today, a Gallup poll. The perception of religious influence has been on the decline for almost as long as they've been conducting the poll, which is 60 years. However, religious influence is near a record low in the United States of America.
Well, and you talk about Marxism trying to get rid of religion. Marxism isn't the only one. The enemy, as some churches put it, Satan's job is to try and get rid of the influence of God. And he does that by asking, well, wait, did God really say that? God didn't really say that, did he? Think about Adam and Eve. He gets to Eve. He says, can you eat of any fruit in the garden? She says, well, not that one tree. He says, well, surely God didn't say you would actually die, right? So that's what's going on here, is we're trying to get people to question whether what God said is real or not. And Joe Biden is on the wrong side of that equation now.
And, the reason that it's so important, some folks may say, well, no, wait a minute. There's just this separation of church and state. You're getting all bent out of shape. And I say, no, that is absolutely, we're not overreacting here, because the Declaration of Independence, the second sentence of the Declaration of Independence explains the reason that we must believe in a creator. You don't have to be a creator you don't have to believe in a creator in order to be an American.
Right.
Okay?
You don't.
Not whatsoever.
Not at all. And have all the rights that are granted by the creator and acknowledged by the country.
But you have to elect men and women into office who believe in a creator. And the reason for that, the reason that that's so very needed, the reason prayer is so very needed and for our country and our very way of life, is that without the creator, there are no rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
Government's duty, as we have explained several times, and our listeners know this, government's duty is to protect those rights. And that's why it is necessary that we elect men and women who pray. And if we continue to elect those who don't acknowledge our rights come from our creator, or that there is even a creator at all, how can these elected officials possibly pretend to protect our rights if they don't know the creator is the source of those rights to begin with?
They can't. If our rights were granted to us by Thomas Jefferson, we're all in trouble because he's been dead for a very long time. Let's get to the top 3 things you need to know before tomorrow. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is withholding the pay of that state's legislature. The governor vetoed a spending bill that would have paid the salaries of the legislative staff and the members of the Texas House and Senate themselves. This veto was promised by Abbott when Democrat lawmakers walked off the job back in May rather than allow a vote to improve election security go forward. Quote, funding should not be provided for those who quit their job early, leaving their state with unfinished business and exposing taxpayers to higher costs for an additional legislative session. Democrats called Abbott a dictator, even though a veto is clearly one of the governor's legal and constitutional options. A special session is expected to be called, which should allow Republicans to finally pass the election integrity bill.
You mean holding elected officials accountable now makes you a dictator?
Apparently, yes. Yeah.
So what do you want to get paid for doing nothing? I mean, many elected officials already do nothing. You want to get paid to do nothing.
Yes. They want to be paid to walk off and then charge the taxpayers for a special session. Second thing you need to know before tomorrow, the state of Louisiana paid out nearly $1 million in unemployment benefits to dead people. That's the finding of a recent state auditor's report. Most of that money was to people who recently passed, and the state simply hadn't received or recorded a death certificate. However, more than $300,000 of that went to people who had been dead for a while and had their death certificates already registered with the state.
government spending is the most wasteful manner in which you can spend any money because you're spending other people's money on other people.
So you don't care about whether you're getting a good deal and you don't care about whether you're getting good quality.
And that happens every day in government.
In similar news, the third thing you need to know about before tomorrow, the state of Kentucky overpaid unemployment benefits to thousands of its residents. But Kentucky is trying to find a way to let people keep that money. 14,000 Kentuckians were sent a letter this week by the state of Kentucky telling them they had been overpaid unemployment benefits. But they were also given directions on how to apply for a waiver so they won't have to pay the extra money back. The waiver program was passed by the Republican-controlled legislature and signed by the Democrat governor this past year.
You know, this whole waiver idea, it's just a way to clean this up because folks are not sending back the money. I don't care that you're getting what, 1-2% of the people returning the money?
It's probably already been spent. I mean, the way Americans are, that money's probably gone. You think you're going to get that back? No.